Now, we're going to get back to Cap Gaines' story later in the show. We have John Carney and E.J. Antoni. But first of all, we're going to talk about foreign policy. We welcome back to the show Aaron Cohen, Israeli special ops veteran, founder of Gideon, and Roger Zakheim, my pal from the Ronald Reagan Institute, director and co-founder of the Reagan National Defense Forum. Gentlemen, welcome to both of you. Aaron, let me just begin with you. The IRGC shooting missiles, hitting ships, three tankers in the last 24 hours, and many more before then, all right, hitting them. Now, actually, they put I think they shot a missile into Bahrain. Might have been aimed at a U.S. military base, but I think that one at least was stopped. But here's my issue. Is this memorandum of understanding, the MOU, is it being violated so much by Iran that it's of no use whatsoever? They're punching holes through and through. The negotiators not seem to be able to get through. I mean, is it dead? Is the MOU dead? And is it time for additional military action?
Dead as December, Larry. It's over. In fact, where I'm at is I don't think the real question is whether the memorandum is technically dead. The question is whether Iran is acting like a country or was ever planning to act like a country that wants any type of deal whatsoever. My answer is no. And since the ceasefire, we've seen continued Iranian aggression, pressure on the Strait of Hormuz, firing into Bahrain, as you just mentioned, and resisting any type of transparency, Larry, around its nuclear program right now. So these guys want the benefits of diplomacy. The MOU doesn't have any value if it doesn't change Iran's behavior. And that's where I'm at with that. It's a complete waste of time, and I think it is time to go back to maximum pressure. That's what brought him to the table. The economic pressure, the military pressure, all of it. And if Tehran responds by attacking ships, then guess what? The objective hasn't changed. It's time to force them back to the table. It's the only thing, it's the only language they understand, Larry.
I mean, Roger, actually, reopening the Strait with free passage, which is an international principle, was the easiest and clearest part of the MOU. Other parts regarding denuclearization and the enriched uranium and so forth, and monies and sanctions and so forth, those, necessitated a full force deal before it could all go through. This was the easiest and most straightforward part, and Iran won't even abide by that. And General Keith Kellogg, retired General Keith Kellogg, who you probably know, he's a brilliant guy, he has come out and said flatly that it is time to resume the bombing and we should hit Karg Island because of Iran's bad behavior. Your thought?
Well, I agree with General Kellogg. I think that's where we're going to land. When you look at the MOU, you're right. It was fundamentally about opening the straits. I think first and foremost, the president wanted to bring the price of gas down. He's done that. Its national average is under $4 a gallon. So check the box there. But what we've seen from Iran is that the people who wanted the cash infusion, the people who were trying to engage in diplomacy, were the non-hardliners. I mean, they're all hardliners, but they certainly were the diplomats. They were not the IRGC. So the people who are engaging in diplomacy are not the ones calling the shots. That's the problem here. The people calling the shots are the ones firing on those tankers trying to navigate through the straits. And what we're seeing at this moment, short of the re-engagement in terms of an Operation Epic Fury, Operation Economic Fury is underway again, right? Because we saw Treasury announce today, not a big press conference, not some sort of big statement out of the Trump administration. It was sort of, speak softly but carry a big stick. Now that cash infusion, that spigot has been turned off, and it's going to get the attention of the diplomats. They're not allowed to sort of have their yellow cake and eat it too. That's over.
Yes, it is. Well, the Treasury announcement, and by the way, I've said this before, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is the best wartime Treasury Secretary since World War II, and maybe beyond, because of economic fury. Now, the announcements you're referring to is they are restoring the sanctions on oil sales, okay, through August 21st. So that's just, it's not a long time, all right? And maybe sterner action is going to come. But the point is, Aaron, I think at this point, I know the president prefers diplomacy. I know he met with Joint Chiefs of Staff General Cohen, and he met with War Secretary Pete Hegseth and looked at military options and decided to stay with diplomacy. But you know Trump, at some point, his patience will run out, and then he will hit.
So I think that's the key, what you just said there, Larry. And I think it's that strategic uncertainty. The thing is, we don't know. And I think that's one of his biggest strategic advantages, is that unpredictability, which you and I have discussed. And so Iran has spent decades negotiating with these predictable admins, but Trump, up and down, I think it's time to go back up. They don't know how to negotiate with a president who's willing to impose crushing sanctions and order these strikes. So I think that's what the table's calling for now. Let Trump keep them off balance, but it might be time to just dial it up again. It's the only language that's going to back them off that strait and get us what we want to be, which is we're dealing with suicide ideation here in the form of a government. That's what these extremists are. And Trump knows that. So let him keep doing his business, keep him off his toes, but it's time to dial it up again. He
calls them lunatics, and he is probably right about that. Roger Zakheim, lickety-split. Greenland control back in play at the NATO meeting. It's the most fun I've ever seen. I am totally in favor of Greenland control. I was pushing it when I was in the government years ago with Mr. Trump. It is part of the Western Hemisphere and the Trump corollary to the Monroe Doctrine. How about it, Roger? Let's control Greenland.
Well, there's no question that Greenland is critical to U.S. national security. We saw it during the Cold War. It's back again during this next Cold War with the People's Republic of China. President Trump likes to go into a NATO conference, seizing the initiative, putting everybody on their heels, and there's no better way, from his standpoint, to do that by talking about Greenland. But the reality is, Trump is transforming through tactics that no other president has pursued our greatest alliance, which is NATO. And I think that is ultimately the prize. How do you motivate NATO allies to take security seriously at the same time, not doing anything that would invite aggression from Vladimir Putin or undermine this alliance that has done so much for the United States as well as the free world?
Heck, we could do a sale leaseback with Denmark. They'll make good money from it. We know how to run it. They don't know how to run it. Anyway, you guys are great. Aaron Cohen, thank you. Roger Zakheim, as always, thank you ever so much. All right.